Welcome to my podcast. Today's dream, tomorrow's reality. My name is Vicki Poole. I'm a life coach, health coach, and hypnotist at the Enlightened Peach. And this podcast is all about embracing our mosaic life. Some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life? Well, it's recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I will be your host, and we'll have special guests from time to time. As a matter of fact, I have a wonderful guest for you this evening. If you have any ahas or questions, please leave a comment or a voice message. So let's get started. So let me get to this amazing bio here. Well, let me find it. There we are. All right. So this is Jen Post. She is a Cosmic Goddess BlueStar, known as the Awakener, is a renowned Earth and Multidimensional guide with gifts that include so many things. Let's see. Reiki master teacher, dimensional Reiki living healer, oracle of the Akashic Records, and soul plan blueprint chart readings, past life regression therapist. And I do past life regressions as well as a hypnotist. And I love that. Tarot cards, angel cards, psychic medium, and channel for the archangels. Oh my gosh, starlight language, that always fascinates me. Her mission on Earth is to help awaken and activate people to their soul's mission. Oh man, is that needed. Awakening and deepening their psychic abilities. And that's one thing that I'm always working on too. She, along with many other light workers, are assisting with anchoring down the 5-dimension light codes and frequencies into the Earth template, creating a new world rooted in love, light, and empowerment, releasing mankind from fear, control, and powerlessness. Oh my gosh. That is so much to unpack. Oh my heavens. So that is amazing stuff. And just kind of for our guest, how did you actually get started in doing all of this? I mean, that's a lot of education too, because you're like me. It's like every time I hear something, I think, oh my God, that just sounds amazing. Oop, I got to learn that one too. So it becomes a gift and a curse at the same time, right?
Yeah, it keeps us busy, that's for sure.
That's it. All right. So I'm just curious though.
All right.
How did you get started?
Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. We all have moments where we experience aha moments, or what I call a soul awakening. And for me, it was a number of things that led me to change my entire life and put me on my soul's path. Many years ago, I had a lot of psychic experiences, always very in tuned growing up. I would have spirits coming to me. I would just know things, but I was
not to interrupt. Well, I am interrupting, so sorry about that. But so when was the first time that you remember this psychic stuff? And it probably at the early stages you didn't realize what it was, but
yeah. I can remember going into certain places when I was a young girl, 4, 5, 8, and being very scared, and not being able to process why I was so scared going into certain locations or being around certain people.
So it was the energy of the place, the energy of the people.
Yeah, energy of the place. I would always have scary dreams. Honestly, was very scared growing up, and a lot of fear, but never really had a justifiable reason, to be that scared. that was really, really hard. And honestly, even to this day, it is something, it's a theme that I've been working on, my soul's been working on, is releasing fear. And also has been a lot that I counsel and work with people, as well as we're moving, well, the whole collective is clearing and healing fear. But yeah, for me, it started very, very young. I never felt like I fit in. I always felt very awkward, and just that I didn't feel like I had a place, it was hard for me to kind of get into a groove with certain friend groups, because I just felt different and didn't think the same way they did.
So did they recognize that you were different, or was that just something you felt?
I think well, no, I think it was both.
Okay.
I had to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like, I have always been, the weird one. Just like my family doesn't understand me, and
I feel like I'm the black sheep of the
the
family.
black, I think every family has a black sheep for exactly what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I knew early on, I knew, and my reference point to what I'm going to explain was only, what I had at that time, that understanding. I always knew I was here for a really big thing, and a humanitarian. And I just didn't understand to what degree. I thought, actually, when I was a teenager, am I going to go to, Zimbabwe and build huts or something, or like go and do a refugee camp? I didn't know, but that was my reference at that time. But now I understand, working with many beings and entities, what I do with my multidimensional work. I now understand the bigger, the big picture of it. Back then, I had a very set plan in my mind. I always knew I was going to have children, who I was going to marry, when I was going to divorce, and then who I was going to eventually wind up with. That's exactly what happened. I planned my pregnancy at 17, and I had my son, Michael, and basically went through all the steps of, having the White House with the white picket fence and raising a family. But little by little, our soul's purpose begins to really take momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my lesson through the marriage, and I can always go into this a little bit later about the soul plan, because that's really what was a game changer for me, my soul plan chart. But little by little.
So wait. So when you said you got your soul plane chart, and then that changed a lot. So it told you something different than what you had anticipated. Is that what you mean?
No, I confirmed it.
Okay. All right. So keep going. Now, just all of a sudden it was like, wait, what? Go ahead.
Yeah. That was a game changer, honestly. And I offer these readings because it will change your life in so many ways, like it has mine. But I'll go into that in a little bit.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so when I started feeling the call to go inward and start healing, that was really when everything started to really take momentum, if you will. So I was married for 16 years in totality, but around the 13-year mark, I felt what we call the twin flame coming in, and all of these things started happening, where I started to shift inside and realize that this was not what I was supposed to be doing, continuing with my marriage. It was not a healthy marriage. It was a big karmic lesson for me to release from somebody who was abusive, verbally and emotionally. And it took a lot. It took a lot for me to have two small kids and trusting completely just by the guidance of my higher self to leave. Not having an education, because at 17 I had my son, and just really trusting spirit and my guidance. So I left. And when I left, that was a huge marker for me standing up for myself and saying, I'm not going to stay in this dynamic, regardless of my situation. And that has also been something that has come around through multiple life lessons, even now, you know, to understand that why we stay in relationships or situations that we stay in, and what we're learning from it, what we're learning about ourselves from that. But when I decided to leave, it allowed me to really do the inner work of understanding why I made the choices, why I stayed for so long, and the impact of the relationship. You know, he was a big player, if you will, in who I am today. And honestly, it was because of the soul plan reading that helped me to understand that every single person that comes into our lives is a reflection of what we need to heal. Right. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't understand that, but so a series of events started to unfold when I made that conscious decision to go out and trust spirit to end my marriage. My twin flame was brought back instantly through that conscious decision to leave. And we started, dating. And that's when everything started to change. I had an incredible, it was a very painful experience for many, many people, but it really put me into the dark night of the soul for the ultimate space for healing. And that was a situation that happened where my son's friend Nicholas was killed in front of him on a bike. They were about 15 years old or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was
on a bicycle.
On a bicycle. So they were going to a skate park. This is what the boys did. And he had called me when it happened, and I wound up going to the accident scene. And I found myself there with all of the boys. No parents were there yet. And something just came over me that was just outside of myself. To be there for those kids, to guide them, to comfort them, and just hold the space for them, and I didn't realize the impact of this boy's passing, like what it was going to truly, how it was going to impact my life dramatically, and everybody else's. So I only met this boy for about 10 minutes or so, a couple of months before his passing. And the night after he had passed, his soul came to me. And his soul came to me telling me that he was my son in a past life, and that his birthday, we share the same birthday of November 12th, and that was his gift of our connection from me being his mom in this past life, and that he incarnated in this life to be a friend for my son and to help awaken us. Not knowing any of what this meant, that was a really difficult thing to process. And this is when my abilities, it was like the floodgates opened. So it took a lot to process. I had my family wanted to put me to get help, to see a therapist, go with post-traumatic stress, because I started having massive panic attacks and agoraphobia. But I understand it was my sensitivities that I was opening up, and I started having spirits coming to me, and then tapping into the empath energies of feeling the grief and the agony of his parents and the boys, and not being able to discern what was mine, what was theirs.
Yeah. So when you were at the scene, you said that something came over you. So was it that you said something to them that helped? What was it that came over you at that place? I don't know if I'm asking that correctly, but
no, it's a beautiful question, and it was grace.
okay.
It was peace, and it was grace, and it was a part of a step towards me going into seminary school.
Okay.
So between a few deaths of family members and this boy, it led me on the path to enter into seminary, into interfaith seminary school, where I feel very comfortable helping people who are in those situations, or their loved one is crossing over. In fact, it has been this process that I've learned how to cross souls over, because they will
So you're almost like an end of life doula then.
I am an end of life doula.
Okay.
So that opened the door to even understanding that, but it was first understanding the connection of spirits coming to me and knowing what was their thoughts and their communication versus my own. Because we're learning that line within our scope of our consciousness of what is theirs and what is ours. So yeah, I mean, his passing put me in dark night of the soul, and it really gave me the space to start looking at all of the things in life, who I am, why we're here, what is this big plan, like what is the connection with us and the spirit realm, and how do we interconnect. So yeah, it was a really tough time, nonetheless, but he was the door opener for me to step in. And I truly believe the gifts that when a person crosses over, they always leave us with beautiful gifts to learn. So I try to explain that, when I'm doing eulogies. I do a lot of funerals when the souls will come to me. Some of them come to me before they even know that they're going to pass, and I will work with them, clearing the fear. Yes, because there's
That's
a lot of
interesting.
fear.
Yeah.
A lot of fear, I know it. I've lived it for so long of being never being scared of death, but scared of what we go through leading up to the crossing over.
Yeah, because anything we don't know can be very scary.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had, when I was awakening, when Nicholas passed, I had Archangel Michael specifically, descending from my ceiling. I would see my ceiling open up, and all of his electric blue energy coming down and telepathically talking to me, telling me that I'm part angelic, and that my son is angelic. And I'm going, oh my God, like, and I'm telling my husband this, and he's like, you need help. Like, and then, his projected fears didn't do well for me, because I was already in fear mode of feeling everything. So it was a dark time. I bet. It was a really dark time.
So how long has this been? Because you said your son was 15, right?
This is 2009.
Okay. So it's been a bit.
So it's been, yeah. So the dark night of the soul, I teach a lot about the dark night of the soul. And I have a lot of people who come to me because I truly know and believe that when we walk through something, it forms, our spirit family. We come here with spirit groups and soul groups, that spirit will bring people in front of me, or bring to my, to me, so I can help walk them through this. And it is, we have a light body, that as we move up in our energy field, we go through different layers and levels, let's just say, of the light body. And one of the big dark night of the soul light body is the level 6, and this is the 6th level that you move through. And this is the part where souls will decide if they stay or they will cross over, or check out and leave this physical body, their physical vehicle. So
okay, well, let me ask you a question there, because I want to make sure I'm understanding.
sure.
Is you're saying that when someone comes to death, they can decide to stay, or they can decide to go ahead and go to wherever it is they go?
Yeah, go into another body, because we live multidimensional lives. I've actually interfaced with two of my selves in other lifetimes, or timelines. Just yeah. But
That the timeline things always fascinates me, and I'll tell you, this is totally off subject, I think, but
it's okay.
my children's father passed away when my daughter was 7 and my son was 16.
Oh, wow.
And and it was a very, very difficult time. We were actually divorced at the time. We'd been divorced for probably about a year, and we started dating, trying to work things out. And he passed away while we were trying to work things out. So it was really hard. So when I got the call from his sister that he was on the way to the hospital, he had had a heart attack, I bargained with God all the way to the hospital. If you'll let him live, then I'll do this and I'll get off the fence. We'll go ahead and get married again. Because I was the one that was saying, we've still got the same issues. They're not resolved. We can't do this to the kids a second time. So let's work it out. And so I just bargained and bargained and bargained, right? And obviously it wasn't the right thing, because he passed away. But I'm telling you all that to tell you that there are so many times that I feel this this feeling of what it feels like for that not to have happened. For like, there's like this line is right here, and I'm just kind of going into it, and and sometimes it makes you feel a little like, what the hell's wrong, but it's very fascinating. And the more I learn, and the more I read and talk to people like you and all, I realize that is, it is right there. It is where, we not only, there's one where we never got divorced, there's another one where he didn't die, so it's, and he comes to me still, in my dreams, and sometimes I'll see him, somewhere in the room, or, but
paths are crossing, or timelines.
Yeah.
And it can be dizzying, right? When you're in that space. And a lot of times, we lose time, like that sensation will happen, or deja vu, right? Like,
I get that one a lot.
That. Yeah. Well, I feel that is deja vu,
Yes.
stepping in.
Yeah. And what is that movie? It was just out not too long ago. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Did you ever see it?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I feel like I live.
you have to watch that, because it's a mainstream movie that's a lot about this stuff. The timelines and going from,
Well, there's a reason, when we have these movies, the directors, they're receiving the downloads to help, activate mankind and bring in these different concepts. And that's where, the multidimensional guide comes in with me, like the Earth and Multidimensional guide, because as I had gone through this process and have pulled in more aspects of myself and learned about timelines and multidimensionality, I had one experience, and this was part of another karmic and energy within my soul plan chart. I had gotten breast implants right after I got divorced, because I was that was the main insecurity that I had, that my first husband filled that, it was that perfect mirror for me. And so that was like one of the big decisions that I did after, leaving him. And as soon as I had gotten them in, I got sick. I knew right away that these implants were making me sick. And I had, for 10 years, I had them in, and I had pretty much all of these undiagnosed things going on, never feeling good, just burning, fevers, sensitivity, like food allergies, chronic sinus infections, like fever, like all, but you couldn't find anything else. Full body pain, fibromyalgia, all of that. And this was a major life lesson for me, to learn to love myself and to heal my inner vision of myself without having the external validation. So another painful, but even when I was actually on the table to get right before the surgery, I heard a very loud, "Do not do this."
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. And I was laying on the table by myself, and I honestly, obviously I ignored it, but I remember being like, well, what am I going to do? They're all here. I
Yeah.
hate this.
They're going to be mad if I say, I
Yes,
changed my mind.
big lesson right there.
Yeah.
Right? Not even realizing it at the time. So I went through with it, and right away I got sick. It was a long, I got to the point where actually on the 25th of this July will be my 3-year anniversary. And I got to the point where I almost died from it. 104 pounds. I was medically anorexic. I couldn't
Oh, wow.
eat. It was, and that really, when part of my soul plan is death and rebirth, and I've had 5 near-death experiences in this lifetime, and each time I've gone through these near deaths and these experiences, I have learned and grown into myself even more, and my emotional body. And that's actually a vibration that is in my soul plan, but I never understood it, when I had my soul plan done. But to go back to the multidimensional timeline thing, when I was about a week or so out from my surgery, I had a really incredible astral experience where I was flying consciously through astral travel through the Milky Way, actually,
Is
to
this
the
awake or asleep?
This was asleep.
Okay.
But they had shown me like my soul just flying through this dimension to Andromeda, actually. And yeah, and they were telling me of my origins and parts of myself coming back together, because it has been fragmented through my decisions that I have made, karmically. And part of this incarnation is to bring all of those aspects back into wholeness in this lifetime. But a really amazing experience happened, was that a few months before the surgery, I started having these visions and these experiences at night of being in another body, but being a young girl. And she had really long, very bright blonde hair, pale skin, a little chunky. And I would go into this body and have my complete awareness and be with a group of friends. We would be out at a show, at a concert. And there was one time when I had gone into her body, and she was looking at herself in the mirror. And her self-talk to her was just all negative. I'm too fat. I'm too this. And I realized at that moment that my decision of removing my breast implants was directly impacting this other aspect of myself in this timeline. She was going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So that was my understanding of this.
So were you able to interject some of your wisdom into that
Yes.
situation?
I almost felt like the way I thought about it was like I was a guide to her, guiding her, even though it was an aspect of myself, but it was a higher aspect.
Right.
I'm coming in now as a higher aspect to her name is Anna. They even told me her name. And of course, spirit will validate things, to confirm that. But it really put a whole big perspective about how I conduct my life and the decisions that I made, because every decision that you make, it goes out into
Ripple effect.
the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting experience that I don't share all too often. Like my family doesn't know about it. My kids know about it because my son is a star seed. I'm a star seed. So they have told me where they come from and originate from. And that has been part of when they told me I was this Earth and Multidimensional guide. It was to understand that I've incarnated here to help people move through this spirit journey, this multidimensional integration journey while they're in physical form.
Mm-hmm.
So I will work with people in both realms. I'll work at night with people, and there's been many times when people have come to me and said, oh, you and Ala Kali, which is my higher self in the Pleiades system, will sit me down and do healings with me and do teachings with me. So I work with people on those multidimensional levels, but then they also come for physical sessions or readings or their soul plans. So it has been, life is amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
what I try to really bring is this joy and this grace to people through all of the challenges of the earth walk. And it is tough. We move through so many different emotions, but at the end of the day, what I try to really instill in my practice here is the joy and the beauty of having this physical expression and the experience here, right? So
Right.
how can we not be other than grateful for incarnating into this beautiful world and having all of these beautiful relationships? And if I can help a person who's moving through something very challenging to take away something sacred through that challenging process, then, I'm really happy to do so.
Yeah, perfect. Well, one of the things that was just going through my mind, and I'm sorry, but it's going back to this chunky girl, and Anna, right?
Anna, yeah.
Yes, yes. So, if you're looking in the mirror as her and you hear this talk that she's doing, so how do you interject some of your wisdom there? Do you just begin speaking that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was almost like a telepathic, but
okay.
at that time though, it was very interesting, it was telling her and guiding her, but also at the same time, I was understanding my own reflection in that, because I was 104 pounds. And
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't even have the strength to lift myself up from going to the bathroom or walking upstairs. They told me I only had a couple of months to live unless,
Something changed.
something changed. And that was, the breast implants, getting them removed.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was so weak, I did not think I was going to survive the surgery and the detoxing. The detoxing was a 2-year,
I
that
hadn't even thought about that aspect of it.
oh,
So what kind of
horrible.
implants were they?
They were silicone.
Silicone. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was honestly, it was worse than the 10 years. The neurological and the nervous system and the histamines that were coming up out of my body, it was air hurt, like
Oh wow.
air and
Wow.
water on my skin. And there were many times where I thought that if this didn't go away, I don't know if I could stay in this body. And that taking that away, that also put me in another level of understanding also why souls will take their own lives.
Yeah.
And I've worked a lot with suicides. So I had inklings of committing suicide in either a parallel or a past life, right? So
Mhm.
I got that understanding. But to go back to what you were talking about with Anna, I was also in the mode, because I lost so much weight. I was so insecure because I was so so skinny. And that has been something where a lot of people will go through the challenges of being overweight, but people who are skinny,
Oh
we
yeah.
go through, and the fear, because the fear of, if you get sick, you're not going to have the body fat to, it was a long, grueling process, but through that, we were helping each other.
Nice. Well, the thing too is that it doesn't matter if you're heavy or you're too skinny or
Yeah.
you're what other people perceive as perfect.
Yeah.
Us as women, men probably have some of the same issues. I can't speak for them. But I don't really see how. But I
Yeah.
will say that women are held to a standard that
100%. Yeah.
there is no way even the most beautiful woman does not measure up to what the standards
Sure.
are.
Yeah.
And we all have this horrific body dysmorphia.
Dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I had that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And and there's a lot of people, and the reason they become anorexic is because no matter
Yeah.
how skinny they get, when they look in the mirror, they still see the fat person, which might not have even been that fat to start with.
100%.
So it's mind-boggling to me how our brains work, but the media and all of that stuff really feeds
Especially,
onto that,
it's a
and
big age.
so the
Mhm.
thing that I have found recently, that I thought was just it's another mind-boggling thing to me, is I know we as women, we wear makeup, and some men too, we wear
Yeah.
makeup. But these makeovers that people are doing now, where you see them do this all the time, and they take a woman that looks like she might be 70, 80 years old, they make her look like she's maybe 40. And
Yeah.
to me, that I think that's okay if you want to walk around like that. But what kind of thing do you feel when you take the makeup off? And
Yeah.
then there you are looking
Unworthy.
at yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that seems like it is the most horrific thing you could do to yourself,
Yeah.
is to make your natural beauty be the most offensive thing there is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that feels like to me.
And that's
Um,
true. And when, yeah, getting the breast implants is altering your image to adhere to how you would think you're supposed to look, to feel that you are of worth.
yes.
Um, and it was, I mean, I have been so happy with and the whole healing process around all of this, starting from Nicholas's death, it was his death that opened up this space for me to move through all of this. But yeah, I mean, part of the energies in my soul plan chart is that to fall in love authentically with all parts of yourself.
Mhm.
And when I do take my makeup off, or you know to me, I feel that I'm so much more at peace with my own skin,
Yeah.
that my wardrobe changed, how I express myself changed. And I'm a very expression type person. I'll paint my or color my hair purple one week and it'll be blue the next week. But it's how I felt and how I feel on the inside now.
Mhm.
And the healing, honestly, it was healing work that did it. When I was going through my dark night of the soul and started having anxiety, everybody wanted me to go on medicine. And not that medicine, it does have its time and its space, but for me, I knew I had that voice in my head said, no, you need to start meditating. And
Need
when
to
I
feel
started,
it, not
yes,
bury it. Yeah.
not bury it, feel it. And it was very uncomfortable. But
Mhm.
now, where I am at in my life, I conduct myself with grace and embodying this beauty that just amplifies from within. And I try to instill that and live by example and help people through all of this darkness. And another one of the vibrations in my, and I'll talk about the soul plan in a moment, so everybody kind of understands this, but one of the energies that I've come here to incarnate with is to come into full integration with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And part of that process is looking at the shadows, our shadow self, right?
Yeah.
So I was always this person that came off as very confident, right? And everyone, picture perfect. I was, almost like a fitness instructor. I was, worked out all the time, and people would be like, you are perfect. But inside, I didn't feel that, obviously, right?
Right.
But that through the soul plan really, when I had this reading, it was at that very moment when everything started opening up for me. All of the shadows, the darkness, the insecurities, and they became so in my face, let's just say, right? That I couldn't run from it anymore. But everything inside of me said, go deeper into this. And, I'm sure that when we open to this spiritual realm, our teachers come, the healers come, everything that is going to support you in your awakening or your reawakening, awakening, and ascension process. And at that time when Archangel Michael started coming in and communicating with me, I started seeing repeating numbers. I started having, feeling that pull to go to certain places. And then I would have these encounters with people, and they would be meditation teachers, they would be energy healers. So you start to recognize that there's something else going on that is bigger and grander, but also it's safe. Right. So it's a love that you're feeling through this. And one really pivotal experience I had was one day, because of the archangels coming to me, I was guided to go to the bookstore, and I was looking up Doreen Virtue with, angels, and looking at books and such, because I had these angels coming to me. So I wanted to understand. And a woman just came up to me, and she just started chit-chatting with me, and she's telling me that she does these readings. She's up from Florida for only 2 weeks, and maybe I should come have a reading. And everything within me was like, I'm going, I have to go. So she took my name down, my birth name, and I go to this appointment, and she starts basically telling me things that I would have never told anybody, all of those inner thoughts, all of those insecurities. And she said, your life is going to change in ways that you can't even understand. And honestly, I took it like a grain of salt, and I was like, okay, if you say so.
Thanks.
Thanks. Exactly. It's exactly. Yeah, that was, but what was the most amazing thing that happened was the last energy, and I'll explain a little bit how the reading works in more detail, but the last energy she told me, she said, you work hand in hand with Archangel Michael. And when I tell you the floodgates of tears, because I knew at that moment that I was really authentically having these experiences, and the fear that released, because I was absorbing everybody else's fear of going crazy. I had a nervous mental breakdown. So it was really a tough time. And so hearing that was the most, I finally was able to take a breath out of all the years that I was going through. And it was only like a year or so that I was going through this pain of trying to find myself through this darkness.
Don't you sometimes wonder how many people are in the mental wards now that are just having, this enlightening experience or something, and they don't know how to articulate it, or even if they do, the people around them think, cray cray.
Well, yeah. And it was, when this happened, it was a memory of that happening to me, actually, at the hands of my now husband doing electric shock therapy on me. I
Oh
had
my gosh, really?
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
And when I tell you, he and I had a really, really hard time with my awakening. He does not believe in spirit. He is very angry at that. Well, not so much so now, but it's been 10 years of working through very deep layers, but he had a lot of anger towards spirituality, which is in his soul plan.
Mm.
Literally, that. So our souls, the soul plan is where our name is energy.
Mhm.
So when we decide to
Our
incarnate,
birth name, right?
our birth name, right?
Yeah.
So when we decide we're going to incarnate, and who our family is going to be, and what day we're going to enter, and that brings in your astrological energies. Our name is a vibration that holds multiple vibrations that goes out into your field, into the world, and brings you all of these life lessons, karmic clearing, healings, your psychic abilities, your worldly, like your talents, and ultimately, in high aspect, what you're here to transcend, and your soul's mission, like what you are really supposed to learn and be in this lifetime, basically. Your soul's mission. So
how do you do the soul reading? Is it just like what you said that woman did for you? So you just get their
yeah,
name
well,
and
even more so, because
okay.
what we do is I convert it into frequencies, and it goes out along the Star of David. So
So how do
there's,
you convert it to frequency?
well, I have a program that does that. It's
Okay.
actually, it's ancient Hebrew gematria. So it is a way of converting through Hebrew, is the closest language to the light of God. So
Right.
is 22 letters in their alphabet, and when we speak the name, we decode it, and it will go out onto the Star of David. And the Star of David is the two-dimensional form of the Merkaba. Now, if you know what the Merkaba is our energetic field. This is how we travel multidimensionally. So when Archangel Metatron was coming to me, he was starting to talk to me about all the geometries of the universe, and how our energy field is made up of geometries and part of the Merkaba. And I'm going to teach this. And I didn't even know what the heck a Merkaba was.
Right. So is that similar to the Fibonacci?
No, the Fibonacci. No, this is, do you know what the Merkaba is?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So
No.
the
So
Merkaba,
do tell.
so the Merkaba, Archangel Metatron holds the blueprint of the Merkaba, which is the blueprint of a soul. It contains all of the shapes of the universe. And I don't have my statue up here, but the third dimensional, hold on one second.
Okay.
I use this in healings. So this is the Merkaba.
Okay.
It's a star tetrahedron.
Okay.
So it is, this in here represents actually the human body, and this is around our energy field.
Okay.
Okay, so as you become awakened, you start to hook up energetically to activate your Merkaba. It's either, some people call it Merkaba, some people call it, the Hebrew version is a word is Merkava, or you can call it Merkaba. And as we start awakening, our chakras begin to awaken, right, and expand and line up, and then it starts connecting you to like the Earth Star chakra, and the soul star chakra. And
hold on a second. I'm going to grab something. You keep talking.
okay. And then it's a series of energetic activations within your energy field. And that is where I come in when I do my energy work. And I do, a couple of times a month, I'll do activations with the light language. And it's designed to open up, to align the chakras, open them up, align them to the higher chakras and the Earth Star chakra to ground your energetic body so we can build your Merkaba. Now, when you start building your Merkaba, this is when your life and reality will really expand. And that's why I have had those experiences of being in other lifetimes and traveling to other dimensions, because it's our vehicle of how we travel multidimensionally.
Yeah. So what I grabbed, I want to show you this because didn't know anything about this, right? But I've been reading this book that my brother shared with me, and it's not even in print anymore. But
there you go, the Ascension device. Oh, I love that.
Isn't that interesting though? I mean, it's just sitting right there, and I've gone through and done some of the activations and things, and so that's interesting. So
yep.
Ooh.
So you're building the energetic. So when I had the soul plan reading, she didn't go into any of this. I don't even think she knew that the symbols around the Star of David were actually light language symbols. I do, do I have it here? Hold on one sec. I don't think I brought it down. I have here on my wall. I don't know if I can move. Can I? Is that okay?
What?
If I move the camera, I want to show.
Yeah.
You know what? Look, I have this. This is my soul plan.
Okay.
See how it's like around the Star of David? And all these squiggly lines and everything. That is actually light language. And each one of these brings in a set of energies that allows me to have these relationships and these challenges or these life lessons or these abilities. And you move and navigate through your life, you'll notice which vibration is standing out or which one is interconnecting with the other for you to move through that experience. So you have your worldly challenges, you have your spiritual challenges. And that to me has been like the biggest karmic lessons of, and for example, the one that I have is about slavery to dominion, and learning through these relationships and through how I think and feel and act, what confines me or what limitations I put on myself through these relationships, and breaking away from this enslavement. And that has been, all of my relationships have been about me really stepping into my voice, of owning my weirdness and my uniqueness and what I am here, and never faltering anymore. You know, if I'm living my truest, authentic expression, and that's where the soul plan really helped me take those necessary steps. So each one of the vibrations has a challenging attribute and a positive attribute, and it's polarity, because we come into this 3D world, it's polarity. So each one of these vibrations, you're going to have a challenge that you're going to move through, and then of course a higher aspect. And the more you move through with conscious awareness of your challenges, you'll start connecting to the higher aspects. That's when your whole reality begins to change, because you're living from a completely different energetic standpoint. And now you are the Merkaba. Now you are living your dimensional life and your soul's plan. So that's where they came in and told me that I was the awakener, to help people awaken to their soul's plan. So what I'll do is, and we should do yours so you can understand just how incredible it is that you'll be able to understand every decision ever made, like why you're doing the podcast, why you've had your relationships, and you really come across with such an understanding and a conscious awareness, so you can make those decisions at a higher consciousness, right? So be able to shift people out of their repetitive patterns and heal the karmic lessons and these relationships to why you incarnated. So it's like a blueprint. So to me, it has been the one thing that has been given to me of a great tool to not only navigate through my own life, but to help others as well. And what's really kind of cool is that I'll sometimes will do relationship readings. So you compare and understand why the souls came together and what vibrations are working with each other, like your own individual.
So what about, you know, how there's different rules of thumb or different thoughts, I guess, about it. But, you know, they say that every relationship you have leaves a piece of something.
Yeah.
And you, right?
Yeah.
So does doing that, does it help you to change the piece that they left, or does it, you know
mean
what
after
do you know
they're
what I'm
gone?
asking?
You mean, well, like with my first husband, I understood through all of my vibrations why our relationship and what he brought out for me to look at, and what a beautiful thing that happened having this information and having his soul plan and understanding the dynamic. I really started to look at him from a soul perspective and understanding why he behaved the way he did, and so on and so forth, and who he was. He was a fundamental player. And I tell people, it's the soul plan is like the game of chess, but it's the game of life. Through these reflections, you'll have these vibrations, and you'll be able to take away from it a more loving, even being grateful for what because you've asked for it.
Right.
When you incarnate, your higher self gives you your name. Your parents might think they're the only ones having to do with it, but it's a contract. And yeah, I guess you would say it's a contract that happens before you even incarnate, right? Because the soul wants to have an experience, so it's going to set it up that way. So yeah, I mean, it absolutely has allowed me to understand the dynamic of what he taught me. And I'm very grateful, because I honestly wouldn't be sitting here in front of you right now if I didn't walk through what I went through.
Yeah, that's why I say in my intro, you know, we live a mosaic life, and if we change one thing, we're totally different people. And you know, and I had somebody ask me, because I tell you, and I'm sure you do too, but I've got some damn stories that will blow your mind about things that have happened to me in my life, you know, and most of them not what you would want to happen. And you know, so, but I wouldn't change any of them, because it's led me to this place. And what's interesting, and I'll share this really quick, is that when I started my podcast, it had nothing to do with this stuff. It was, you know, I'm a health coach, I'm a life coach, and I'm a hypnotist. So it started out because it's called Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality, right? So it started, my thoughts when I first started it was to talk a lot about how we, you know, we bring things into our lives, and we dream about things, and if we do things, you know, it becomes our reality, right? That's how the thought started. But it was like, I told somebody the other day, it's like it grew legs, you know. It has become such a bigger thing, and it's just kind of morphing into something that I never would have even dreamed of. And having people like you, and I've had people that have had horrific abuse, sexual abuse, you know, recently had one that was trafficked, and come to a beautiful place in their life. And, people that, I mean, everybody has such a different story, but it all has the same structure to it, basically. The same as the movies, suddenly something happens and then they project it into a totally different life. And so it's like the truth is stranger than fiction kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when I think about it, is when what it's become. It's like I never would have dreamed up this stuff.
Yeah. And think about that, the beauty of that, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're stepping into that, is to give you that example of where you're stepping into the higher aspect of one of your vibrations. And it's I already know, because I can feel it from you saying it. You probably have a lot of thoughts and a lot of creative energy going around you. And when it feels so good in your heart, you manifest it and you become this beacon of light. You're like this beacon of light to bring people into the light, into the windows of their soul, So it is a beautiful example, like you were saying, starting off, and not like when I had my reading and she's like, you have no idea how your life is going to change. And you walk out of there because you're at that you're looking at it from like you're saying, like when you started this podcast, it was where you were at, but it grew into this incredible thing where you're bringing in all, like the mosaic, you're bringing in all facets of life and light to come in and to offer that, for people to know that we're all part of this web, right? The whole mosaic, right? When you announced it or described it like that, I said, that's beautiful. I loved that explanation. But yeah, it's, this, like I said, this world we have all different walks of life. And I think that brings us all together to know that at the core, we all move through these very challenging things, but we have the support system and we're really all here to help one another, and if we can all, and this is where what you're doing and all the other light workers are doing, and that's bringing down that fifth dimensional energy of this consciousness that is of love, that's of peace. It's like the song Imagine by John Lennon. My husband's always laughing at me. He's like, this dream is never going to happen, Jen. And I said, nope, it is going to happen. It is happening. It's creating, when enough people awaken and do the work like you and I have, and the people that you've had on your podcast, when people see this, it's that ripple effect. And we know that we are of love and that we come from source, that we're all the same, right? And if we all do our work and we all play the part, we all become interwoven in that beautiful web of life. And this is how we change the world. Imagine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Imagine that, right? So
right. And I heard and I don't even remember where I heard this, but they were talking about how, bringing the fifth dimension is going to bring us into this lighter phase of things.
World,
but the reason that we're having all the conflicts and all the horrific things that are going on right now, it's just like you have to have the night and then becomes the day. So we'll be projecting out, but all of this other stuff, it's like you can't sweep the dirt under the rug and expect it to go away. You got to bring it out, put it in the dustpan and throw it in the trash. And so this, there's a lot of darkness out there right now. And I choose to not be a part of that darkness. Doesn't mean I don't know it's there. But it's interesting, that when I heard this person talking, I thought, oh, that just makes so much sense, that it's got to come out. So that it's like having a sore and you got to get the stuff out of it, if it festers up, you got to get it out to make things heal. And so we're bringing things out and healing.
That was really when I was in seminary school, our teacher was energetically, but also we would talk about this, it wasn't like your typical seminary school. It was, of course, we learned how to do weddings and funerals and learn the religions and stuff, and all the different, religions, but it was really about us doing our inner work. So when we had this big shift that was coming, we were energetically rooted. So
Yes.
we went through this before COVID. So we knew something was coming. We just didn't know in what form it was going to come, that was going to bring the world to a stop, and then the unveiling. And this is what we have seen over the last couple of years. So when everybody was really having a hard time with COVID, we were energetically prepared for this. So we were already anchored down into the new earth,
Right.
into the earth grid.
Right.
And which I'm very thankful for, because I'm happy I did all that clearing work and that energy work, and got my my Merkaba activated.
Yes, yes,
All
yes.
of that. So when this big thing happened, I was rooted enough, and then I can assist with this process of people moving through. But it's like the end of the Kali Yuga, the end of a cycle of this domination and this fear. And that
Right.
is where, if you look at what was happening during that time, it brought up the primordial fear, the primal fear that people have, and how it was being projected, and it forced people to stop. I actually did a channeling 2 years prior to COVID with St. Francis, and he said that we're going to move to a more simpler time, and be in a place where we're not a time where all the external busyness of the world is going to cease. And I didn't understand that.
Well,
time.
when COVID happened, it's like I didn't have the thoughts that a lot of people were having. And it's not like I prepared for it ahead of time like you or anything like that. But it was like, I don't have to rush anywhere. Of course, I didn't feel like I wanted to just sit and do anything either. So Home Depot got a lot of my money during that time, because it was the one place you could go. So I was going to Home Depot almost every day, so I could, wave and everything. You had your mask on. Nobody could tell if you were smiling or not. But it was very, very interesting. And I even took a road trip with my daughter. It's like she was wanting to go to Portland, and I said, well, how often do I have this much time off of work? No, let's go. So we did, road trip. We drove all the way across the country. I'm in Georgia. We drove to Portland.
That's amazing.
And we had no problems with anything, anywhere, nothing. It was like, they didn't have a lot of, like places open, but we managed. And it was like, and I tried not to have the fear, because, every now and then the fear would pop in and say, oh, are they going to stop us here? What if they stop us here? And then they do a temperature check, and then they don't let us go home. All those, every now and then that fear would pop up, and I'd say, no, this is going to be fine. We're going to be okay. And it was, for me, not to belittle people's experience whatsoever, but it was an adventure to me. It was, because I cannot remember a time of my life that I've had that much time that I didn't have to go to work.
Do that. Yeah.
That's
what it was. Yeah. And it allowed people to think about all the things that they weren't tending to with themselves and with their family dynamic. It really gave them the time to.
Yeah. And it changed the way people do business. I mean, before, COVID, very few people had online businesses, especially like hypnosis and everything.
Oh, my business.
They thought you couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and I will say, I had one lady ask me, she said, so what if all of a sudden we're on the Zoom call, and then we lose power, and am I going to be stuck in hypnosis forever? no, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
You'll
no.
finally get to the place where you say, well, she hadn't said anything in a while. Well,
I
what's
think I
going
should
on? Yeah.
Well, that's what I tell people when I do
Yeah.
past life regression groups. I said, you're not gonna like cluck like a chicken or
Yeah,
anything
I
like that.
know.
It'll be stuck. I'm
People's
like, please
conception of this is
open
like
your eyes.
mind blowing. Yes, yes. It's really funny. Can I get stuck?
Yeah, it is.
But yeah,
But
but really quick, because we're getting really
yes.
close on
Oh yeah.
time.
Wow, look at
So
that.
I know. So let me just ask you a couple of things about this.
Sure.
This soul did you say it's called the soul plan?
Oh, the soul plan. Yeah, the
Yes,
soul.
yes. Yeah. So if someone wanted to do that, what would be their next step to do that with you?
Oh, simple. They would just reach out to me and we would, set up an appointment. They would give me their original birth name, how
Mm-hmm.
it's written on the certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people will have like misspellings on the certificate. And I
Yeah.
said, I need that one because that was the intended energy. Because
Right.
one letter, you take out one letter, it can change your whole plan.
Right. Well, it's funny. My son's name is Nicholas. But his is spelled Nicolas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And, people are all the time trying to put the H in there and do all this stuff,
Yeah.
but that's not his name, and it's
Exactly.
like, when they ask me how to spell it, I'm surprised they didn't just write out Nicholas,
Yeah.
but I specifically told them, spell it like this, but
See?
I had a C-section. I was under such drugs and everything that I don't know if I intended to do it that spelling or if I just forgot the H or whatever. But obviously, from talking to
That's
you,
what
that's what it was supposed to be.
100%.
Yes. And he used to get
100%.
so mad as a kid because the teachers would tell him he was misspelling his name.
Oh,
And he'd
see?
say, no, I'm not. You
No,
don't know
I'm
how to
not.
spell my name.
It's written on my soul. And I tell people too, for business, for name changing, like if you get married, your vibrations are still the same because this is your blueprint. But when you get married or you change your name, it brings in an overlay. So it's additional energies that are actually working with you. So,
Okay. So I've been married twice. Do you need to know those two names too?
well, if you're still married, you would want to know the additional energies.
No, he's the one that passed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, you would want to do your original. I always tell people
I still have his last name.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you're still connecting to those energies that married name is bringing in, but it's assisting your blueprint. So
Okay.
we look at it from a positive standpoint when we get married because we're not learning the challenges with those we're learning the challenges and that those aspects with our original birth name. But I've had many people who are deciding what business name they want to do because that too is an energy.
Well, then I wonder about the energy of my business name. My business
Yeah,
name is the Enlightened Peach.
There, yeah. So that would have an exact certain frequency that you're bringing in. So when I was doing my website, I was revamping myself through COVID, and just bringing in a different energy. I specifically, even my website, I put in Jen Beldy Post because I had an energy and a vision of what I wanted to connect to my business. So when I compared it to Jen, like, www.jenpost versus Jen Beldy Post brought in the energies that I wanted to utilize.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting,
Yeah.
even with that.
Yeah. All right. So just so everybody knows, I will be putting a description in the post and I will be putting all of Jen's links so that you can reach out to her. And I know you've got several links there. So is there like an email address there that they would go to, or do they go to the website or?
Yeah, they could go to my website, which is
Okay.
www.jenbeldy. That's B as in boy, ELD as in David, Y, post, POST. and you can check out all the different, readings that I do, because I do Akashic readings and, tarot readings and healings and all sorts of, and I'm always running specials. So
Okay.
I try to help people with the way the world is. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
maybe we'll have a discussion after we get off
Yeah,
here. But maybe we could do a soul reading. We'll talk about it and see what
yeah,
all that entails. And maybe we could do another and talk
yeah.
about the things that we discussed. I mean, I don't know. Is
Me,
it
yeah.
something, is it so personal you wouldn't want to do that? I don't
No, I've done
know.
it many, many times where I've
Okay.
done actually other podcasts where the host I would give them their reading, and we would,
Okay.
go through that, and it would give them, the people listening, an understanding. And
Okay. Well, maybe we'll talk about that and see
yeah, that was
if
fun.
that works. That would be fun. So everybody just kind of watch out and see that this might be coming sometime soon. So but I'm really excited, and thank you so much for being here today, being vulnerable and participating all out, and just being a beacon of light. I really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you and all that you're doing, and I look forward definitely to connecting with you. So, but
All right,
thank you for
perfect.
all you're doing and sharing your light.
Thank you. So everybody, keep a watch and make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, do all the things, and help this grow and get out to reach many more people. Till then, be blessed.